All polymer clays must be conditioned before you work on them, no matter how soft they are right out of the packet, or if you already conditioned them the day before. This is because after your polymer clay has been sitting around for a while, the ingredients in the clay will settle and the plasticizers in the clay can leach out on non-protected surfaces. Conditioning your clay removes the air and redistributes the ingredients in the clay evenly. This is especially important for the plasticizers in the clay that hold the clay particles together. And if everything is mixed properly, the end piece will cure with a stronger finish. Failure to condition your clay may lessen the finish strength of your baked clay. There are 4 common ways to condition your clay. First, you can manually condition your clay. Soft clay brands could be easily conditioned with just your hands. All you need to do is portion out a workable amount and then knead it with the warmth of your hands. If the clay is a bit firmer, tissue blades can make the process go much faster. Just slice the clay into smaller chunks and then knead the clay. The second method we're going to discuss in this video is conditioning clay with a pasta machine. For firmer clays, you can use a pasta machine to speed up the conditioning process, even though it's possible to do it all by hand. I remember one day I had to make 5 sets of earrings, and by the next day I was just done and sick of kneading clay. So then I realized how indispensable a pasta machine is if you're working on clays on days that are back to back. To condition your clay with a pasta machine, you still need to partially condition it first by chopping it into smaller pieces. Then set the dial to a thin setting like 3 or 4. After it's rolled out, roll the sides and then feed it through again. Try to avoid having folds at the top because that will cause air bubbles. And repeat this process several times until you can fold your clay without cracking. You can tell that the clay is adequately conditioned if you can fold it without cracking it. Now let's talk about conditioning brittle clay. Normally, clay can be conditioned with any of the methods I discussed previously, but sometimes your clay is just extra brittle. This might be due to the fact that over time, plasticizer which bonds the clay pieces together may leach out, and your clay might need a little help by mixing it with products to help condition it, such as liquid clay, clay softener, and mineral oil. Products like liquid Scopi and clay softener contain plasticizer, and you can add a drop or 2 at a time to soften the clay. Place the crumbled clay in a Ziploc bag or a plastic wrap with the conditioner and knead it until it becomes pliable. Be careful not to add too much conditioner at a time because overdoing it may cause your clay to get mushy and sticky and hard to work with. Another popular way to condition brittle clay is to use mineral oil. It does not contain plasticizer, but it does help moisten the clay. You add the mineral oil in the same method that I discussed earlier with the liquid Scopi. Personally, I like to use a mixture of both liquid clay to add plasticizer and mineral oil to moisten the clay. Another way to condition clay is to mix hard clay with soft clay. You can make use of softer clay brands that have been sitting around on your shelf unused for a while by mixing them with harder and firmer clays to customize the properties. For example, as a beginner, I bought a ton of Scopi 3 because there were a wider selection to choose from in my local craft store. But over time, I realized that I much prefer the finish and strength of Scopi Primo for jewelry making because of its sheen and the fact that it's firmer. So what I like to do is mix the softer Scopi 3, which tends to bake more porous, matte, and brittle, with a harder but more resilient clay brand like Fimo, Kato, or even Scopi Primo to get a clay that's stronger than Scopi 3 but easier to work with than the harder Fimo and Kato brands. Now that we've talked about how to soften clay, let's talk about how to deal with clay that is too soft. If your clay is too soft or mushy, you might find it a little bit difficult to work with. It might stick to your roller, or pieces might smear on your table, and the particles just might seem not to want to hold together enough for you to work with it. If that's the case, then you might want to employ a technique called leaching. Leaching is a process of removing some of the plasticizers from the clay to make it more easier and firmer to work with. Keep in mind though, if it's overdone, it may lessen the finished strength of your clay or make it crumbly. To begin the leaching process, sandwich your clay between several pieces of copy paper. Make sure this is placed on your work tile because you wouldn't want the plasticizer to leach onto unprotected surfaces like your table. Then set a book on top for a couple hours and continue checking until it gets to the consistency that you want. Here are some quick tips to keep in mind when conditioning polymer clay. It's best practice to condition lighter colors of clay first, since clay is like a magnet and will pick up anything on your hands or the surfaces of your table. Another tip is that you can use baby wipes for handling clay in between colors of clay. However, pick a brand that doesn't leave lint on your hands. And lastly, mineral oil can be used to clean the rollers of your pasta machine, since over time, plasticizers can have a chemical reaction to the steel rollers, causing black streaks in your clay. Just take a towel with a few drops of mineral oil on it and wipe the rollers of your pasta machine when you're done with it. Thanks for watching until the very end. If this was helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and good luck with your next project.